before any other version of The Hobbit, there's this version, made in 1966. And, there are a lot of movies and TV shows and little small projects made simply to get the rights or retain the rights to a property. And this is one of them. This is a short, it's about maybe 11 minutes long. It's billed as an animated short, but really it's just a bunch of pictures where the camera moves around to display motion. There's a lot of liberties taken here. For example, here's Smog, but he's called Slag, and he looks kind of ridiculous. Bilbo is in it, but also these guys, some porter, that is Thorin Oakenshield, and a princess that's just randomly inserted into this story. So Bilbo goes on the whole quest with these three. Gandalf appears very briefly and is mentioned throughout. And the trolls are all, there's only two trolls, and those trolls are basically called groans, and they're like tree creatures. So this whole venture took place because a producer by the name of William Snyder got the rights in 1964 to make a Hobbit movie. And back then, J.R.R. Tolkien wasn't a huge thing, so basically the Tolkien estate sold it for a pittance. And within the next couple years, all of a sudden, the Tolkien craze was on. The Lord of the Rings books were out, and people were really into it. And in the 60s, there's a huge Tolkien mania for all this stuff. And basically, the rights skyrocketed in price. And in order to retain the rights, Snyder had to make a full-color version of The Hobbit by June 30th, 1966. And his intention was basically to make a version, show it in some sort of screening room before June 30th, 1966, and then sell the rights back to the Tolkien estate for $100,000, which was big money back in the 60s. So basically, Gene Deitch, who was an animator at the time, he was trying to make a Hobbit movie with William Snyder, and his version was going to be basically sell animated figures with live-action 3D backgrounds, which would have been pretty cool. He concedes that he did take a lot of liberties with The Hobbit. His version was basically what you see here, with an inserted princess. The trolls were different creatures called groans. Smog was called Slag. He changed a lot of names, inserted characters, deleted characters. He took his own liberties with it. And he still concedes today that, his version was pretty cool. He would love to have made it. But alas, his giant script that he wrote for this got condensed down to a 12-minute version, as per William Snyder's wishes, and to make this little short that was just made just to sell back rights for a higher sum. So here are the groans. They're basically tree creatures. This is before anyone really knew or cared what Ents were. Gene Deitch basically made the trolls into these creatures here. And basically the scene is basically the same. They turn into solid trees as opposed to rock when the sun comes up. And Bilbo, basically this is his only pose. And that too, I guess. He basically tricks them into arguing for all this time, and they turn into trees. And here's the very first appearance of Gollum in any sort of media outside the books. He looks kind of creepy, but I mean, as with everything in this short, very basically illustrated here. The whole movie is basically just a bunch of images and stuff, and creative ways to move them around, and one guy voicing over everything and doing some of the there's the ring, some of the voices himself. I do like some of the illustrations here. This is Mirkwood Forest, and I like the multi-plane effect they have here, and some of the trekking shots of the adventurers walking through the forest. It's very colorful, very unique. There's no real battle of five armies in this version. Basically, the adventurers stab Smog, who's called Slag in this thing, with this Arkenstone weapon. And basically, that's Slag's death right there. This movie is unique. It's kind of cool in just a very esoteric way. But I mean, it's not a definitive version of Hobbit. Obviously, here's the Hobbit marrying the princess from well, the one that was inserted randomly into this story. A lot of people deride this version as being cheap, and it is. It was basically made for rights.